France, Ireland, and the United States will gather together. With 3 keywords each for their year, they will bid farewell to the old year and sail into the new year. Today on stage, as they look back at 2022, Gen Zers will unfold different buzzwords of the year. They will tell stories about themselves to conclude their past year, to mark their engagement with their country, and share their vision at a global horizon. So for Gen Zers from all over the world, what have they accomplished and learned in 2022? What are their resolutions and plans for 2023? Let's jump into 1 year, 1 word to wave a fond farewell and stride into the future. Together, let's power up. A lot of different countries and institutions are choosing their word of the year. Why do you think they are so, let's say, fond of picking a word of the year? What is the significance of that?
From the US perspective, it's a way of taking the temperature of the public and society to kind of see where the mood of the general public is and how people are feeling, what their interests have been that year.
Because rarely is there ever a chance for a lot of people to talk about how they're feeling about the state of the world. And so the word of the year, whether it's something that indicates uncertainty, if it's positive or negative, it shows how people are feeling about the world at that time. And words have such immense power.
So it's creating a ceremony at a very special period of time, especially approaching the end of year, for people to come together to reflect on one word and perhaps relate to it.
I think from a French point of view, we don't really care about like the word of the year, but we will care more about which words we need to pick up and put in the dictionary for next year, because the language is evolving.
It focuses more on what's new, right? Or what can be new in the future.
Although in my country it's a little bit different, we do take it a little bit as a joke, because our word of the year is inflation. So that is a bit of I would say a little bit of an inside joke of the country, and I think it depends on your country, your region.
So today we are going to start from 3 different levels for each of you to share your words of the year. We will first start from a more personal level.
Yeah, I suppose I picked rewarding just based on my own experience and my own study of China. I think it's been such a rewarding experience for me, and I've actually just arrived in China this year for the first time just 3 months ago. So I was delighted during undergrad to study at the Confucius Institute of Ireland in Dublin. And throughout my experience of studying China and studying Chinese, I've just had so many opportunities given to me, and it's been such a rewarding experience. So finally having the opportunity to come to China as well and to be actually on an amazing scholarship program at the Yenching Academy of Peking University at Beijing Daxue is such a rewarding experience.
Interesting, because rewards, there could be many ways to interpret it. And what type of rewards, concrete or abstract, have you received thus far?
I feel so lucky to be in China and to be learning Mandarin here now in China. It's such an amazing experience, and I think the biggest reward for me actually has been the connections that I've made here in China and the friends that I've made through Mandarin and through English as well. And of course my amazing Chinese classmates who have amazing English as well, perfect English. But yeah, really the biggest reward of all is the friendships and the bonds that I've made through my study of China and through my study of Mandarin.
Learning the language, of course, is an important means to communicate with people, but that is for the goal of communication, right? So if you can have the connections with real people, especially face-to-face, which is a very lucky thing still with the global pandemic going, right?
It's my first year in China. I told myself, okay, now I'm in China, I have time, and I need opportunities. So what I will do is I will say yes to the most of things I can say yes. So mostly I said yes to everything, and I created myself a lot of opportunities, new friendship, bond with new friends, meet amazing people.
I suppose you also said yes to your outfit this morning, like what type of colors am I going to choose? Why don't we have all of them? Jude, you picked culture.
I am Bulgarian, but my father is Lebanese, and I've lived in Bulgaria, Lebanon, the UK, South Korea, and now China. And although I'm doing international relations, I'm actually very interested in the culture aspect of international relations, so cultural diplomacy. How do we communicate between each other, different cultures, different understandings, different folklore, and different customs? For even example, like tea. For us in Bulgaria, we would often have tea that is medicinal, so herbs, and we would have honey with it. But here, you don't usually add honey to your tea, but in the UK, for example, you add milk, which I'm sorry, I don't like. It doesn't taste.
So there are always new ways of exploring cultures and seeing the differences, and seeing that we're always on the way of meeting different things. It's very rewarding.
So I chose rediscovery. So I think it's about spending 10 years in one field, and then suddenly it's sort of changing everything that you know. I think there's a lot of relearning and rediscovering your interest and passion for learning from that as well. And I think this year, I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about what's happening in our country and around the world. But I think increasingly, because of my field work is related to communication, so there's a lot about rethinking how, for example, the role of China, the role of developing world that can play, right, in communication, or rethinking my future career.
When we talk about communication as the central theme of your profession at the moment, I suppose, it's about making connections with others as well. So we see that we are part of this bigger picture, and there are so many things out there for us to do, but it starts from re-examining ourselves, right?
I chose the words change and growth. I picked two because I feel you can't have change without growth and growth without change. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not easy. And I think another thing that ties into that is believing in yourself. So lately I've been waking up, and every morning in the mirror I'll look at myself and I'll say, you can do this.
But sometimes, like you said, it can be hard to embrace changes and to see the growth out of it, because when things change, people have to, again, be accustomed to something different. And it's not always easy or comfortable.
Yeah, it's
right?
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Change happens when you're uncomfortable.
Exactly, but you have to have what we call faith, right? So that's the word Sarah has chosen.
Yes, I chose faith for that reason exactly. Well, at the beginning of this year, I wasn't in a good phase of my life, and surprisingly, everything changed in maybe in the beginning of the 3 months of this year. Everything changed in my side, and I've achieved a lot of good things that I would never expect it. So I believed that faith was the main thing that pushed me to accomplish the things that I did.
Mm-hmm. And it provides a really strong spiritual power.
Exactly.
To help you weather through the difficulties.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Matthew, I'm also a scholar with the Yenching program at Peking University. And I found out that I was accepted into the program earlier this year, and I was still in the midst of my last job at that point. So I found out, and I was very excited, and I was like, oh great, I'm going to be going to China and everything. And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh, I have to do all of this work to actually prepare to move my entire life to a new country. It's required a lot of flexibility on my part.
Yeah, just like Jennifer said, words, they have power. So why I think some people would really love to choose the word of the year is to either remind themselves of the faith and the flexibility they must have, or to summarize the rewards and opportunities they have already embraced, and to also see how diverse ourselves and other people can be through a cultural lens or a rediscovering path. So when we keep telling us that word of the year, it might point to a better direction for the coming ones. Great, now that we've shared our personal choice of the word of the year, we're also going to take a look at the results of a questionnaire we have distributed to the Gen Z netizens. And let's pick a word that interests you or surprises you or resonates the most with you.
And the reason why I choose lose is because of its position of this word cloud as well. It's hidden right behind happy and challenging. The positioning of it kind of reminded me and hopefully reminding everyone that I think it's okay sometimes throughout that challenging time and growth, you lose time. Sometimes you might lose yourself, but I think it's important to recognize sometimes you do lose something in order to grow.
Yes, you can always have everything, right? You lose time, you lose energy, and at some points you lose hope, only to rediscover yourself during the process.
This year for Egypt, it was a very fruitful year, I would think so, because Egypt hosted an amazing events like the COP 2022 for the climate change, and for a developing country to host such an event and to invite all countries all over the world for such an event, it was very fruitful. Well, another reason why, because of the relationship between Egypt and China this year, they agreed on a lot of things. Like during the hard time of COVID-19, they managed to visit each other and to encourage more the relationship and make it more stronger. So for this year, it's also very, very fruitful for both of the countries.
So now that we've talked about our personal word of the year, we would now move on to a word you would like to pick for your country.
Actually, it's not my word, it's a word that was chosen by French journals. And it will be a new word in the dictionary next year for French people. This ideology refers to being aware of the problems of social justice and racism within our society.
I see. So it's to wake something up, to be awakened.
Yes, wake up, there is discrimination. This is the topic of this year for France.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it originally came kind of from like the activist space, like a sort of like Alex was mentioning, but I think you've seen it kind of co-opted more by even like politicians and a lot of like major corporations, to such an extent that some people on the right, like conservatives, are complaining about what they call woke brands that they think are trying to insert politics into their business by, you know, not being misogynistic.
Yeah, and Josh picked the word confused. What does that mean?
So exactly what it says, right? I feel like just like being as someone who is in the United States for most of this year, but also like being here in China when there was the midterm elections going on, I feel like there was just a lot of confusion between and among Americans. Like, for instance, during the midterms, everyone was pretty much convinced that the Democrats were going to take a really big beating because of inflation and just a lot of like material and economic woes, but they ended up not exactly pulling off a victory, but definitely doing much better than people had expected. I think that is both a domestic issue and it kind of extends out into the international sphere as well, because for instance, we saw Nancy Pelosi took a very provocative visit to the island of Taiwan, while at the same time you have President Biden saying, oh, we're not seeking to be provocative or like, you know, engage in like a new like Cold War, do like bloc politics or anything. So it's like...
So it's kind of self-contradictory and confusing.
Yes, exactly.
So as for Ireland, I chose reconnection because as we've all been through as a world, the past 3 years of the pandemic, we've all felt quite isolated, I think. Having to stay at home and lock ourselves up as young people as well around the world has been so difficult the past 3 years. But I think that more recently, things are really looking up and things are really looking positive, and we've seen that a lot more international engagement has happened in person and through reconnection, really through in-person events such as COP27, and also we recently saw the visit of German Chancellor Scholz to Beijing.
What opportunities do you see between Ireland and China in the future?
Well, I suppose I'm really looking forward to next year to, I suppose, more recommencement of in-person exchanges and cultural exchanges between our young people as well. Ireland each year welcomes thousands of international students from China, particularly, and we're very happy to welcome so many international students from China who come to Ireland to attend our amazing university.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, we are looking forward to the next page of more reconnections, or new connections, right, among people.
So wisdom, I would say, comes from a story that I used to hear my grandparents say when I was a child. So it's about Khan Kubrat, who united the Bulgar tribes on the peninsula and established Great Bulgaria. And what happened is he brought his sons together and he asked them to break a bundle of wooden sticks. And none of them could, but if he took just one stick, he could break it. And what he said was unity. If you are united, you will survive and you will prosper. And I believe that relates not just to their story, but to our international relations system, to our countries, and especially, between bilateral relations between my country, China, but all countries around the world.
So the universal solidarity that we need. I mean, we have a very similar version of that story in China, just the stick is replaced by chopsticks.
Well, I chose achievements because of two reasons. One for my country, Egypt, and other for all Arab countries, because I think this year is a year of achievements for all the Arab countries. And it also related to China, because China helped Egypt in building a new city in the middle of desert. Now there is the capital, the capital administrative city in Egypt, and is being opened this year, by the end of this year. And on the other side, the Arab countries, it's really achievement for the Arab countries, because this year President Xi attend the summit of Arab and China countries, joining 21 Arab countries in that event. And the speech that President Xi gave was about how it is important right now, the Arab countries for China, and the relations, how to bond these relations, how to make it more and more stronger, starting from the Belt and Road Street to today's. So they are working more on that.
I chose the word divided. Right now in the United States, we are facing an unprecedented period of division on topics such as abortion, gun control, human rights, immigration, education, and racism. And it seems that people are grouping into these two groups and taking very strong views about these issues on either one side or the other. I really hope that people can have more conversations and be open to more dialogue, just like we're doing right now.
Yes, we are living in an era of increasing fissured society, and perhaps we have to really think what the common grounds are within the country or between different countries.
The world is facing challenges that are unseen in possibly a century, and every single nation faces their challenges. And I think, personally, I can't speak for 1.4 billion population, but personally, I think having that belief and believing is what makes one country progress. And I think this word can best describe the year of 2022. I know it seems like a very, very long time ago, but going back right at the very, very beginning of the year, Beijing, the city that we're in right now, hosted Beijing 2022. The Winter Olympic Games, and it's the only city which have seen, the second Olympic, both the summer and the Winter Olympic, and with a theme of Together for a Shared Future. I think there's a belief not just from China, but from all around the world that we can come together, as you mentioned, for a shared future. So I think that belief is important, and I think it helps, at least for China, to kick off in a positive light. I think that kind of reminds us of the time that when Beijing first hosted the Olympic in 2008, what it was like, and now the progress that China has made, and that's come from millions and billions of people believing it's possible for a developing country to do such achievements. And then in the development of space, Shenzhou 14 was launched and was returned just very recently after a 6-month trip in the space. Right, and that was also the first time when the Tiangong space station have 6 taikonauts. That proves to me a belief in innovation, a belief in research. Some of you have already mentioned with COP27, I think China made significant contribution in the environment, and I think with China and US coming back on the negotiation table, and that was very significant in COP27 to create the loss and damage funding arrangement. I think that was a win for climate justice. That was a win for the developing countries from around the world, and China being the largest developing country, I think it played a significant role in that. As Chinese, we're all very proud. I think for those who haven't been to China or have just been to China, please visit one of the national parks There's a series of national parks that was launched last year. And I think that was a huge effort in preserving the environment that we hold so dearly. I think that's believing in the environment and all lives matter. And that's why I choose the word believe. And I think it's a constant process. I think it's a belief in the past that made us who we are today, and it's a belief that we have now, which will make us what we will be in the future.
So that's why you choose the verb, because it's an action. It's something we should commit to constantly, right? It's a process. I think a lot of the topics you guys have talked about, for example, the educational and interpersonal reconnections, and the economic or environmental development, and also the political status quo that we are confused about, struggling with, or trying to figure out. These three different fields also are the ones that our online Generation Z members are most concerned with. Why do you think that the Generation Z members, the group of people that are considered so-called more self-centered, that love pleasure more than hard work, would pick these three fields as the ones that they are most interested in?
Right now we live in a world of globalization, so everyone can have access to those informations, and the young people will be aware of the social injustices. But also, they have a voice. Everyone has a voice with internet. Everyone can express themselves and share to the world. You can often see on the TV news in France some tweets from Twitter online or some other platforms, Facebook and so on, that are shared and popular. And that's finally a way that we didn't have before. A way that with globalization and the power of speech, we are aware now that young people can share their voices.
I agree. I think now this shift is increasingly true in the age of the smartphone. Everything that used to feel so far away from us is now in the palm of our hands. There's no excuse not to know about these things. And I think in the past, people used to say oh, I'm not really political. Oh, politics doesn't really affect me so much, so I don't really care about it that much. But I think people are starting to realize that politics matters. It affects people's lives.
In an ideal world, we shouldn't and we don't need to care. But I think why we care is because what's happening is not working. And that's why we need to care. I think I was very, very moved. I was interviewing someone at COP27. And she is a youth delegate, from Africa, the continent. I was asking her, why is it important for you to be there? And she said, this is the 27th UN Climate Change Conference. This is the first time I have seen so many Africans at a conference, on stage, speaking. And imagine, this is the 27th time, and for the 20-odd times, all they have been seeing, unfortunately, without additional judgment, is white Caucasian men speaking on the stage. They don't feel represented. And when they're most affected and have contributed least in the mission. So I think that's why she felt it's relevant. She, as a researcher, also felt there was a lot of funding going to Africa, but Africans aren't using them. They were used by European and American institutions. Again, no judgment on that. But she then said this is where her context and her understanding, for example, in implementation, why colonization as a consideration must be put in the social research in order to make climate action happen. Those are the things might be missed by someone else. So I think it's about representation. It's about making your voice heard. And hopefully one day we can go back to where youth don't need to choose those fields because the world is working once again. And we go back to that ideal that we believe in and that we have faith in achieving.
Very wonderfully said. As we summarize the past year, there were a lot of Generation Z members that also look to the future. And with the belief and with the summary of the achievements of the reconnections, right, they have discovered in the past year, they can probably guide their future, have more strength, and know about their responsibilities, right? So these things are really important for us to really, again, make what we are not satisfied with something better in the future. So I would also like to invite you guys to pick one word that you think can best describe China in the past year from your perspective.
So I have been here since 2019, which means I lived every moment of COVID-19 here. So for the past 3 years, I can say that yes, China has been solid during all that time. I was amazed how China got itself to control everything for 3 years. This is something that no other country have done before. So that's why I actually chose solid.
I would say dynamic because since the moment that I landed in China, it seems like it is solid, but it's solid in a way that is also constantly evolving and changing. So when I first came, there was obviously the whole centralized quarantine period that we had to do, and then a transition before actually getting on the university. But then it seemed that when I was on the university, they were very responsive to the way that the COVID situation was playing out and how the government was updating its epidemic prevention and control policies. And so it seemed like there was always kind of this state of flux in response to changing circumstances.
During this year, China consulted science and they realized that the Omicron variant is less deadly, more mild, and it made sense now versus in the past to ease the restrictions. And just the period of adjustment is amazing.
Because it's a huge population and the contexts are always changing because nothing in this world is stable, static all the time. Right? So the adjustments, they should respond very quickly to the changing situations. And that's what you called as the ability to take action is very important in this adjustment process.
So I've chosen the word shocking, not because China itself is shocking, but because I, just like Matthew, got here recently. I haven't lived in China for a long time. And when I told my friends or my professors or people from other countries who are exposed to a specific perspective on China, they were shocked. They were completely incomprehensive and they did not understand the decision, and also they failed to truly understand what China is. And I believe for me, this means that there is a gap to be bridged.
Mm-hmm. It's not that China should be shocking in itself, but that people who perceive China in sort of a biased way were shocked when they hear the news that you're coming here. So I'm also quite interested or curious about what aspects of China that you present with now your empirical perspective are shocking to those people you've talked to outside of China.
In the UK, where I was, there is a perception that here we just learn very specific, narrow points of view at university, that you don't necessarily get taught different perspectives. But from what I see at my university here, we get perspectives from much more diverse backgrounds. So we read authors from Africa, we read authors from India, from the Middle East, from America as well, of course, because in international relations, our theories are essentially built by Western scholars. But here, I get a perspective that I never had before, which is the exact opposite of what my classmates would have thought I would be doing.
Yeah, so you actually see this increasing diversity when you're in academia in China, not just the doctrines dominated by the global north or the West, right?
Exactly.
Very interesting.
And I think we need that. We truly need that, because everything that we've done so far in terms of even politics and theories has been based on a Western perspective and a Western way of seeing and viewing the world and interacting with each other. And I think that what we have right now here can offer a different perspective, a different way of developing and continuing forward. And I think this is what is shocking to me and to others, but I think this is what we need.
Prosperity, it means it's something last long time and healthy and rich. So that's actually what is China. It lasts for a long time. It's actually the first civilization, China, we know this. And in 2022, it's still prosperity, prosperous, and life is ongoing. People are working good and the country is healthy. And transition is actually a little opposite to this. It means China is evolving to a new future.
For myself, of course, I'm on a new journey here in China for the first time, but also China into 2023 also. Starting on this new journey is just something that, beyond COVID as well, as Alex was saying, and across several different sectors, and increasing engagement and reconnection with China is really just on this new journey, I think, is where we see China going into the future.
So, Anik, the word you've chosen is believe for your country. I know you're from Hong Kong SAR, right? So anything that you think is very particular this year?
So of course, like this year in 2022 is a very special year for the Special Administrative Region because it's our 25th birthday. I think I'll still use the same word, believe. Because I think for the last 25 years, it have proved to me, and I would describe my hometown in believing in this innovative concept of one country, two system. I think when we look into it, it's not just a slogan, but it's about being inclusive of different systems, but while being a part of this largest developing country in the world. I think for the last 25 years, it's proven to the 7 million people in Hong Kong that it works, and we look forward to many 25 years in the future. It has worked in Hong Kong, it has worked in Macau, and we will see how would that develop further in the future in uniting our nation.
The country we each are from, there are things we're not satisfied with in the past year. There might be confusion, there were challenges, difficulties, but there were also many positive things that we see. For example, the awakening of social awareness regarding, for example, justice or environmental protection, sustainability, or cooperation in this very challenging time globally. But we also see that it's possible with belief, with faith, and also the connections that we should strive for. We can probably stride into the future with more bravery and a more positive prospect. So I would like to invite everyone to write a word down that you think can best describe the past year of the world, and also one word that you hope would happen for the world in the next year. I see exhausting, crazy, and dark, and overflowing.
Okay, this world this year is so crazy. So many new things happened. People are doing crazier and crazier stuffs online. They will be ridiculous just to earn some view on some click.
Right now in like the social media sphere, the things that people are putting out there to get attention are just absolutely insane. It could actually cause violence. And in the United States, there was the January 6th incident where one of Donald Trump's text messages allegedly incited violence upon the Capitol, and people stormed into our Capitol building. It was crazy, and that's why I think your word is very, very apt.
I think it's crazy because you asked whether it's particular or not. Yes. I think I'm not quite sure. Is it getting worse? Maybe. Do we want to get worse? No. But I think at the same time, right? Going back, I'm someone who follow what's going on in climate as well. I mean, bearing in mind, right? COP27 means this is the 27th times that this conference have happened. So over the last 30 years, since the very beginning, small island states already warned the world that if we don't pay attention, we will disappear. And this year, I think Times and several media in the West play around with that title, but I think it could be fun and creative because one of the islands have to move the whole entire island history to the metaverse because they disappeared completely from the map. The media do play out with the rhetoric. Yes, I agree, there's a lot of things, very, very crazy things, but I would say every year has been equally crazy.
Exactly. I mean, talking from two different aspects. The first argument may be, of course, whether we feel something is crazy or not, or unprecedented, particular, these feelings are subjective, and they should be subjective because we are human beings and our feelings should be granted, they are legitimate, right? But if we really want to speak for many other people, whether this year is extremely unprecedented or particular, it may not stand for everyone because we, again, with our very unique perspectives, experiences and stories, we have different feelings, and we should admit that. And from another aspect, perhaps from a more historical perspective, we would see that if we just take a look at the bigger picture of a longer scope, a bigger scope of human history, there are many years that we also may label as extremely particular or even more particular than the past year. Perhaps thinking from these perspectives, we don't necessarily have to regard the past year as so negative, as so crazily particular, but cast a more positive note on what we can see and do in the future.
Myself and my friends often talk about that we're living in very historic times, and I suppose for ourselves as young people it can be very exhausting living through such historical moments that we feel like a global pandemic is not something that we have every day. We also have this year, unfortunately, again, war in Europe, as well as the climate crisis as well. So we're really, my friends often joke that we're tired and exhausted of going through such historic moments. We have a bad reputation, I feel, perhaps Gen Z, of being lazy or of not caring enough about the world, but I think we're actually all quite exhausted by a lot of world events and by technology and everything that goes on. So I think, yeah, exhausting is definitely my word for 2022. And
I think it's very funny because you associate technology with exhausting, but I think the invention of technology is supposed to free up space.
It's ironic, isn't it? Right?
To make us less exhausting.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, it's like, and a lot of people try and get away from the craziness of the world by disconnecting from their phone because all you look at is like bad news. Like it tears you in two because you're like, should I stay informed? Should I be woke? Or do I need to like stay positive and have at least some kind of mental break from all of these things?
Yeah, it's not an easy balance. So Jude, the word you've chosen is dark.
Yes. Dark is something that is an accumulation of the past few years. I think this year, more than other years, there's been a tipping point for a lot of people, and a lot of people feel lost. But another reason why I chose it is because for me, there's always two sides of the coin. So dark, light. There's not one without the other. And if you are able to, in this kind of extremely difficult situation, turn things around, there is actually some light at the end of it. So hopefully we can all strive for that.
Wonderfully said. Perhaps there was much darkness for some people in the past year, but welcoming the new year, hopefully the gleaming of lights are just on the horizon.
I feel that the word this year is just overflowing with all the events that have been happening. Like this year for me and for everyone, I think it was just blowing, like mind-blowing, like a lot of things have been happening that we cannot even till now realize that all these things happened in only 1 year.
Despite all of the repeated tragedies and crises that we've been subject to, whether it's COVID, economic issues, or war in Europe, things of that nature, humanity has still shown itself incredibly capable to bounce back and to build a path for a brighter future. So for example, we saw the COP conference, COP27 hosted in Egypt, where even though it wasn't perfect, we saw the agreement to a loss and damage facility, which is much needed and much discussed about, and that'll be hashed out much forward in the future. I think that even though we've been dealing with a number of issues in the past years, we shouldn't count ourselves out just yet, because if there's one thing that's common around the entirety of the human experience, it's our ability to internalize, fight, and deal with those challenges and come back stronger than we were before.
Things could have been so much worse. And there are so many people still working to make things better, to flip the coin, right? And that shows the resilience of humanity.
So development is a word that is more frequently mentioned on the Communist Party of China 20th Congress report. One of the biggest achievements that is celebrated, of course, is the centennial. That has been one of the longest party in power. But at the same time, I think it celebrated eradicating absolute poverty in the country. Why is it significant in terms of development is that as part of the Sustainable Development Goal, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, no poverty is one of actually the first Sustainable Development Goal. And without China's contribution, I think globally, particularly with what happened, as you mentioned, economically, a lot of those goals would not be able to make progress. But then we also move on to later, just in the past month alone, we have seen achievement of developing countries, right? Having COP27 being hosted in Egypt, having G20 being hosted in Indonesia,
yes,
and the next presidency very likely going to India, again another developing country of the G20, and also not to mention, of course, Saudi Arabia hosting the first China-Arab summit, and also enriching, enhancing cooperation with the Gulf region, really introducing agreements that would secure energy security, that will secure financial security as well, in many ways. I think it's one small step for multilateral cooperation, but a giant leap into a multipolar world that we will live in the future.
That's wonderfully said. I suppose resilience and our faith in development and actions in development would be the best tools at hand for us to weather through permacrisis, the word that Jennifer chose, and also the word of here picked by Collins Dictionary. With these tools at hand, I suppose we indeed would have more confidence looking forward to the next year. So yeah, I would also invite you to share the word you hope can describe our world in 2023. And peaceful. Right? It's Sarah's word. Why does it matter to you?
I think it will matter with everyone here, especially what happened in last year, starting the war that stayed for like too long till now. I think 2023 just needs peace.
So I picked solidarity because I believe that if we're going to have a positive future moving forward, then all peoples, all creeds, colors, religions around the world need to embrace a spirit of solidarity in order to chart a common future of shared prosperity and equality for all people. Regardless of whatever the field is, regardless of whoever we happen to be, if we really want to move forward as a species, then it's absolutely paramount that we truly embrace a solidaristic mind view going forward.
So my word was peaceful. The word peaceful is so strong and needed to be said again. The fact that there is still wars going on in 2022 is something that I just do not understand. You can't fight hate with hate. You have to fight hate with love. I really hope that in this chaotic world that everybody can find a modicum of peace and happiness.
So wonderfully said. I mean, a lot of the suggestions or hope you have are for what we call peace building, which is different from peacekeeping. Because peacekeeping, you can fight it with more violence, right? You can just use force to stop the violence that's happening. That's atrocious. But peace building, it starts from more fundamental things. It changes individuals from within, to let us see the different perspectives, to let us see the shared emotions and feelings that many of you have shared today, something that can be shared by humanity, that can lead to solidarity, because then we see, yes, we have a lot of differences, but as humans, we have so many other shared feelings. We want to feel respected, we want to feel supported, we want to feel a sense of security, right? And we want these feelings when, happening to other people, they can also feel exactly the same thing. And that's what is the foundation of us, humanity. So Matthew, your word is possibility.
Possibility, and I think, possibility is quite a neutral word. I suppose each end of the year we can talk about is actually a new beginning, and there are so many new possibilities in each year to, I suppose, reflect on our year, reflect on ourselves, and to think about where we are and the types of issues that we're facing as a world. But as everyone was talking about, I suppose, take a step back and address that so many possibilities exist for us to work together better and to address these common issues and find common ground on all of these issues that we face as a world. So I think possibility is always there.
Reminds me of a term in physics, which is quantum entanglement. It means that if you do not look at one thing, then there are two possible status there. And the possibility of the next year also perhaps lies in our action and our words and thoughts. So I think, especially challenged with difficulties or darkness or craziness, it's high time that we put more emphasis on our human agency and faith, so that when we do take a look at the thing, we see the more positive side of it for the next year. But today you guys have a couple of words at hand, right? The words that you actually have picked for yourself. So I dare some of you to take the challenge to use all these words at hand to tell us a story.
Are you going through a perma-crisis? Does nothing feel peaceful anymore? Are you longing? Sorry, my microphone.
So the year of 2022 has been a difficult one. You might have felt like you have lost time, you have lost money, you have lost opportunity. Or for some of the unfortunate ones, we might have lost our role models or lose family members. But I invite you to be in a journey of rediscovery, to take this as an opportunity to rediscover who you are, what's your purpose, and what your potential can be. To be in a journey of belief, not just to yourself, but also in the abilities of others to make changes. In a journey of development, in developing yourself in a way to meet challenges that you might not can ever imagine in your life. But more importantly, we need to remember that we are not alone. We are in a global community as we build a global community of a shared future.
Hello from Uruguay. My keyword from 2022 is manifesting. My best friend in China used to repeat this to me all the time. It means go after your dreams, think positive thoughts, and go after what you want rather than waiting for it to come to you. This year, I switched to a completely online remote job. This led me to travel the world with my partner. This led me to volunteer solo in Europe, and I met so many interesting new people from around the world, and I did this all from manifesting what I wanted to do with my life. Next year for 2023, my word will be prosperity. As in, I want to lay the groundwork for my future generation and for my future family. But I want to do this all while manifesting the life I want to live. As in traveling, exploring, meeting new people, and helping the world. 2022 was an amazing year, and I cannot wait for 2023.
So if I were to describe 2022 in one word, I would describe it as growth. I did a lot of growth this year and a lot of healing this year. And for my hopes for 2023, I hope that I have more healing and more health and more growth because wellness and mindfulness is the biggest things that are on my mind right now. So that's my 2022 and 2023.
Hi everyone, my name is Raz. I am the founder of Why China, and my word for 2022 is embrace. Embrace change, embrace the environment, embrace people. I realized that a lot of things have changed in 2022. Some people's life changed completely, and we need to learn to embrace these changes. Looking forward for 2023, I hope to shape and be part of the change that I see in the world and I see in myself, to actively participate and again, embrace it, but also actively try to change things for the better. I hope in 2023 we are there for each other, we support each other, we love each other, and we embrace people. Because no matter where we're from, no matter what we do, if we are sympathetic and empathetic to others, we're going to live in a better world.
Hello everyone, I'm Shu Yuan from Tsinghua University, and I'm now on a visiting undergraduate program here at Harvard in Boston. My keyword for year 2022 is adventure, because this is my first time to study abroad. I think this is not only an adventure to learn more knowledge, more knowledge from the professors in lectures and seminars, but also an adventure to learn more of the outside world, to talk with different students, to hear different perspectives and views on some global issues from students with diversified cultural background. And I hope I could explore more of the world in the coming year.
If you ask me what word I can use to describe 2022, it will certainly be search. Because I was trying to find myself, trying to find my place, trying to find what I want. And today, I'm truly and unconditionally happy because I'm finally where I belong. And of course, I have no doubts that next year will bring me other challenges. But today, everything is perfect. And I wish you all the best for the next year and Happy New Year!
The year of 2022 is counting down, and I can well imagine already. My family getting busy around my grandmother's perfectly squared bassian table. Every New Year's Eve, the 8 of us would gather there making dumplings together, while talking about progress we have made over the year. I guess for my dad, the keyword for his 2022 is volunteer. He has been helping out the senior citizens in our neighborhood with their COVID tests, grocery purchasing, and WeChat messaging pictures to their children. Helping to make the aging society a loving one was my dad's contribution to a more connected world. My mom, who's a seasoned member of a National Flower Arrangement Society, will definitely share with us her encounters with art. The keyword for her 2022 is probably teamwork, because she was always practicing with her friends, many of whom are from Hong Kong or Taiwan. Due to climate difference, often they had different flowers, but this never impeded them from completing the work on the same theme. Creating beauty across differences was my mom's contribution to a more connected world. I'm proud of my parents for their faith in human connections. And that's also why I'm sure that they will be happy for me when I tell them the keyword for my 2022 is connection. In 2022, I have started to more actively take up responsibilities in connecting China and the world. This is the year when I took the most English speech competitions in my life, seeking to share China's win-win wisdom with the whole world. This is also the year when, through school courses and research, I was able to find my own place in the grand course of shared future for mankind. I have grown especially interested in the One Belt One Road initiative. As a Spanish major student, I want to be that bridge that connects the two countries, the two peoples, and the two cultures. Well, I also have something to tell my grandma. She's always curious about what happens out there. For example, she would wonder whether Western people also eat dumplings. Now, I can tell her with much confidence that thousands of miles away from her bassian table, in Spain, people eat empanada, which is fried dumplings with pork, egg, olive, spices, and onion in it. In Turkey, people have many dumplings of beef and spices. In Italy, people have square dumplings of ricotta cheese. And actually, I wanted to tell her that her wisdom helped me understand the world better. As an expert in dumpling, my grandmother always says, never underestimate dumplings. It is one piece of dough that can wrap up 1,000 things. She means that dumplings could come up with different stuffings: pork and fennel, shrimp with bamboo, fish, or even lamb chop. The ingredients may come from south to north, from mountains to sea. And yet, the art is always about achieving a delicious and balanced harmony within diversity. In a way, I see the dumpling emblematic of the global culture as well. Across the globe, one single piece of dough can wrap up distinct flavors, distinct histories, and distinct cultures. As cohabitants of the global village, we need the wisdom and action to guide us towards this harmony within diversity. In days, 2023 is coming. Around the globe, families will reunite, sharing the festival feasts and the full year stories. As I picture my family sharing the keywords of the year over the dumpling working table, I recall the hieroglyphic of the Chinese character Ling, neighbor. It is composed of kitchen fires, windows, and people, suggesting that families form an interwoven and destiny-sharing community. It implies ancient Chinese people's vision for a mutually sustaining community. In 2022, I found my mission as a student majoring Spanish, as one of the Z generation, as a citizen of the whole world. It is to connect people and cultures in an especially complicated world towards our shared future.
Hello everyone, my name is Gabriela Madomwe and I would love to tell you all about my year. I graduated high school last year and most of my schoolmates decided to advance to the next stage of their lives and go to university this year. I, however, decided to give myself a break and take a gap year for 3 reasons. 1, I wanted to take a break from 12 years of schooling. 2, unlike most of my schoolmates, I didn't have any idea of what I wanted to do with my life or what to study in university. And 3, I wanted to get to know myself outside of school, where I would not get distractions like exams, homework, and trying to look put together for my peers. And so my first personal keyword would be explore. I first started with a course in cybersecurity. This was a 7-month course that taught me a lot. There was so much I didn't understand. And I would look to the course mentors, the internet, or YouTube for help. And after reading tons of internet resources, listening to explanations of my mentors, and listening to tons of YouTube videos, I would be even more confused than before. This course would on average take up at least 9 hours of my day, every day. There were plenty of headaches as well as tears as I couldn't understand why I didn't understand the concepts, even after hours of explanations. I thought myself stupid. My mother, however, saw my exhausted and tired state and gave me a piece of advice that would stay with me forever. She said, "Don't cling onto a mistake just because you spent a long time making it." And so I decided to withdraw from the course after 5 months, and it was the best decision I made this year. My second personal keyword would be choice. After cybersecurity, I did more exploring. I was told doing a nursing degree would ensure a stable future. And then there was the idea to do something more practical, like locksmithing or welding. But I also quickly let that idea go as well because I did not see myself as either. Be it nursing, locksmithing, welding, or cybersecurity, I honestly did not see myself in any of those fields. I am happy that I explored and had choices to choose from. However, I knew deep down that none of those were for me. And I didn't force myself when I felt something wasn't right. Every person has their own path to take. And even if you have many paths to choose from, you mustn't be overwhelmed by the options. You must carefully feel each one out. And if it just doesn't feel like it's for you, don't force yourself because your own path is waiting for you. My third and last and most important keyword would be self-trust. You see, even during this tumultuous year of exploration and choice, there was something that always was there to help me ground myself, and that was learning Mandarin. Even during my cybersecurity experience, after those 9 hours, I would take my book out and practice my characters and add new words to my vocabulary. And because I now had more free time when I withdrew from the course, an hour of Mandarin turned into 4 hours each day. And I would join many competitions and place very high. Mandarin was easy for me. It was my peace during my storm. And that's when I realized that my love has always been Mandarin. It had been my love for 5 years. Only after going through so much this year did my appreciation, my gratitude, and my passion for Mandarin make itself even more known. I should have trusted myself from the beginning. Even in exploration, choice, and self-trust, I feel that every reason I took a gap year was not for naught. I ended up missing the stability and the routine of school. I now know what I want to do in university, which is to do a degree in Chinese and eventually end up in international relations. Lastly, I am more confident in myself as I know myself and what I like and dislike even more. I now feel my future has a myriad of possibilities, and I am honestly in a much better place than when I started, and so I feel this gap year was definitely worth it. I am looking forward to the new chapter that 2023 will bring me. I am looking forward to university life. I'm looking forward to making new friends. I'm looking forward to being my own person, and mostly, I am definitely looking forward to diving deeper into my passion for Mandarin Chinese. And just as George St. Pierre said, set your goal and keep moving forward. And that is just what I will do in 2023. With giving my absolute all to learning Mandarin and Chinese as my goal, I will keep moving forward in 2023 regardless of the obstacles. And I hope that you will give your whole being into whatever it is that you're passionate about and keep moving forward regardless of the obstacles. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Hello everyone, my name is Dagmar Misfingaresu. 2022, what a year. It was full of surprises. For me, it's one of those years in my life that I will never forget. It's the year that I got married, the year I began my PhD in the United States, and the year of one of the best World Cups ever. Yes, I believe Qatar 2022 was by far the best World Cup I have ever witnessed. I got to see my favorite soccer player win the World Cup, and I'm obviously not from Argentina, but I was happy for them. I believe so many in the world felt the same way, and football connected the world like nothing would. When the world seemed so divided, football showed us how we really should be, and that is united as one. But we chose the other way, and we are paying the consequence and the price for that. What I'm talking about is the war that changed the course of the year that started between Ukraine and Russia in February. Many would remember the year not as joyful, but as sorrow and hurt. We saw the world drown in inflation before we could even recover from the pandemic's economic effect. In my country, the civil war started in 2018, ended this year, but still people are being displaced and so many innocent lives are being taken. But there's hope. If we talk about losses, I'm sure so many have lost their loved ones this year and would like to erase this year from their memory. I guess every year has its own good and bad memories, and every person's perspective is different. But however you look at it, however you're feeling about this year, if you're hearing me right now, hearing my voice, you are alive and well, or you might be in a hospital or in a war front line or at a funeral, or you just got a job you always wanted, or you lost your job, or you're not doing well in classes, or you're struggling with addiction or depression, or you may be in jail or in toxic relationship or in a harassing situation. Whatever you are going through, you have made it to this day. If you're still breathing, then it's not over. So don't give up. Just imagine what would happen if you don't give up. So let me tell you this today. I want to remind you that you are not alone. There are people going through the same things that you are going through. Remember, the end of one thing means the beginning of another. The end of 2022 means the beginning of 2023. And end of one door means the opening of another. So be strong and be stronger than your strongest excuse. You've got here so far. You can go so much farther. I'm hopeful what 2023 has to hold. I hope we can make amends, learn from our mistakes, take action to end wars and keep our planet safe, and work to make this world a better place. We can do that with unity, respect, and love for each other. And united, we rise, and divided, we fall. Happy New Year to everyone.
While we live in an age rife with challenges, it is also an age full of hope. For every Gen Z year, one unique keyword leads to a story, while each story unravels their most authentic perspective of themselves, their country, and the world. Today, our Gen Z guests bring 2022 alive, allowing us to revisit the epic moments of the past year. In all of this, we see a bright new year dawning. To create a brighter, more prosperous future, individual aspirations must be merged with something bigger than ourselves in the veins of time. Today on stage, Gen Zers have shown us their endeavors. In the year to come, may all countries thrive and prosper in peace. We should think inclusively to build a community with a shared future. With memories of 2022 packed in their bags, Gen Zers are prepared to embark on the New Year journey with zest and tenacity as they learn from the Book of Songs and Xuns. Although the journey ahead may be long and arduous, with sustained actions, we will eventually reach our destination and embrace a brighter future. Thank you for watching today's Youth Power. See you next time in 2023.
I'm Gadif Saeed.
Happy New Year!
祝你新年快樂
Честита Нова година!
Je vous souhaite une bonne année à tous.
Blin Nua Chanagwech.
Happy New Year!